Hello, welcome to the 8th round of the Competier Open Series. Glad to have you. And today we're on Barcelona Moto. The clearly superior layout of this racetrack. I know in real life they've made some changes like 2 or 3 years ago to be able to safely get rid of the chicane at the end. This is basically the layout without the chicane that we had before that. So, very flowy circuit overall. Lots of medium and high-speed corners. And we are about to go into qualifying. We don't have everyone on the server yet. I think there are like 3 cars missing. So some people a bit late. But at least 4 of them immediately going out, a 5th one there, someone just joined. Should be a pretty competitive field today. I hope you can hear me. In case you can't, I hope one of you is going to say something in chat, but if you can hear me, please chat really quickly. I'm having some issues to validate it myself, that you can actually hear me. Test, test, test. Hello. I think you can't hear me. I have to restart my PC. Keep getting failed handshake. I can hear you now. Okay, I have no idea why I wasn't able to hear me on my own stream. Sorry about that. We haven't really been paying attention. Zilla did a 1:59.0, but I think none of the others have done a fast lap yet. So I don't think we've missed too much. I have no idea why I wasn't able to hear myself earlier. I think it's an issue with the stream on my phone just not having audio. Sorry about that. I thought he couldn't hear me. Andres with a 58.3 now. But let's make sure we're not missing any more laps. Frank is about to come over the line. Let's see if that's a somewhat decent lap. It looks like it's a valid first and second sector, but no time coming over the line, so clearly went off somewhere. We're also just watching Noah go out the end of the corner of the fast right-hander there. Thomas with a 56.6. Andres also just went over the line with a session best last sector. Thomas is really fast on here. The 56.6 is pretty good, considering we're far away from perfect conditions. Linus is currently matching his first sector though. We'll see what Andres has to offer in the first sector. Andres 35.5 first sector, so let's go on board with Linus. And let's see if he can put a lap together. Hoping for some fun racing. Yes, this is the fullest field we've had yet. Charlotte has had some stomach issues after dinner, that's why she's not in the first race. We were scrambling for whether she could join or not just before I turned on the stream, which is part of why I was so quiet just now, figuring out stuff. But she'll be there for the second one. Linus currently 1.8 tenths behind Thomas's best lap so far, so he is still on course for a personal best. But unless he can really ace the last sector now, it won't be a session best yet. Hello Charlotte, sorry about that again. I was trying to do a lot of things at once very quickly in the last few minutes before the stream there. Linus really losing the car there over the painted green area at the exit. At the entry, I mean, on the outside. So not a perfect lap from him. Yeah, he actually loses so much there again that it's not even a personal best. Are you just going to practice on stream, Charlotte? I think you had a bit... like you were a bit tight on practice anyway, right? So maybe it doesn't hurt. Linus struggling to get out of here. He clearly practiced in full grip, which I don't blame the drivers for. 97.7% now. I think so far we've been starting basically on 97.2% or so all the time, even though there is a randomization factor on the server. It doesn't really seem to work though. But yeah, the track is going to improve a bit faster with more cars in the field. Didn't sound very good there on the downshift, very high revs. I think Noah's lap, the 57.2, was also very good considering the low grip. It's pretty insane. He did a mid 56 in practice, and I thought that it was an amazing lap, and this might have actually been faster considering the circumstances. And he just did a purple second sector, matching Thomas's second sector that he's on right now. Oh no, sorry about that, that's Linus. It's Linus and Thomas both with a purple second sector. So, even though it still looks as if he's like being very aggressive on the steering wheel, correcting a lot, I think this is a decent lap from Linus. 2/10 off though. Having lost that in the first sector, second and third sector were both quite good. Andres not a great first and second sector. Oh yeah, the second sector was pretty bad, I think, so I'm not sure if he'll be able to improve on this one. He doesn't. And Igor behind him, also not personal best first or second sector, so also no improvement over the line. Still at personal best second sector, but I think he's on an out lap, yes. He did an out lap and then did personal best second and third sector, so if that had been a fast lap, that would have been pretty decent probably. But with Noah and hitting that inside curb there, you go up so significantly on top there on the green stuff that if you try to drive off it again as you go back on the throttle, you get bounced off it. The curb spits you back out. He drifts into the next corner. Clearly also expecting a bit more grip than there actually is, even though, as I said, I think he can be pretty happy with his 57 too. Of course, continuing to try to improve as the conditions still improve a little bit over the 3 remaining minutes we have in this quali session. But right now, nobody really improving. Andres, I think, did a decent first sector and then a personal best second sector. So let's see if he can nail the last one now. Maybe it's going to be an improvement that would put him most likely ahead of Noah, as they're only 1/10 separated. No, not at all. Was, I think, around 2 or 3/10 slower than his PB so far. Brakes into T1, hits the curb there. That again, if you hit too much of it, if you also hit the green stuff, it spits you out again, and then you arrive at the second corner really badly, too far on the inside. Looks as if that happened to him there. I'm updating my wheel, pray for me. I would not do that. I'm going to be honest with you. I am scared of Moses software. But also again, Andres, I think, not really improving. Looks like the quick drivers here have been doing pretty good laps, so even with this slight grip increase, they are still gaining lap by lap. They are not managing to get the times again. Very far on the outside here, but I think he stuck the throttle, so it might be fine. It's session best second sector, that is more than fine, I would say. But was he too far off in the first sector? I think it should be okay, this could still be a pretty good lap. See how he approaches this, he sticks on the inside a bit too early, so he basically has to wait a little bit until he can go back on the throttle. Very small mistake. Does look good, carries a lot of speed through there. And here early back on the throttle for the straight line, and it works out at the end of the corner. That looked decent. What is it over the line? 57.1 puts him ahead of Noah. Let's go on board with Zillard. First sector, I'd say acceptable. Second sector, quite good. It's not an improvement though, 1/10 slower than his previous attempt. Linus unfortunately messed up his second sector after a really good first one. And Thomas just came over the line. Unfortunately, we don't see him on the timing screen in the top right because he joined the session late. But he just did another best lap, didn't he? 56.5? I think that was a slight improvement again. Someone in the gravel there. It's Conspit. Oh yeah, okay. So you're just upgrading the wheel, not the wheelbase. I'm not too worried then. I think the worst thing that could happen is that you don't see anything on your screen or something like that. And Thomas over 2/10 improvement in the first sector, right? But Linus actually one-upping him immediately. Linus is basically directly behind him on track. And they're effectively fighting for pole here. They're still both on valid laps, if I'm not mistaken. Go into here, take a little bit of grip at the left, but especially cut over the right. That looked as if he was struggling a little bit there. Still a lot of steering angle as he comes on the curb, and he loses the rear slightly, and I think that's it for the lap. I think their laps are currently just too good. If you make a mistake like that, it's basically gone. What's the second sector? His previous one was a 45.7, this is a 46.0. But Linus actually only 1/10 faster. Linus is still in a personal best. Maybe it's fine, maybe it's fine. If Thomas really nails the last sector now, he could still be... It could still be an improvement and he could still be ahead. Otherwise, Linus has this. Linus currently around 1/10 ahead in both the first and the second sector. Has to be a bit careful here, not going on the throttle too early because he entered this corner very fast, but out of the last corner, very well done. What is it over the line? From a 56.5. From Thomas. Thomas doesn't improve and Linus improves just about enough to be on pole, 1.5 hundredths ahead. That's very nice, very close, very competitive. Last race, Linus looked as if he was significantly better off on pace. The second race, obviously, there were some issues for Linus, so Thomas still ended up ahead, but this time Thomas so fast. Big improvement from last race, really getting to know the cars now. But Linus just about getting there, 1.5 tenths. Very nice to see that. So it's Linus on P1, then Thomas, then Andres and Noah also very close together, both of them. A bit of a gap, then Zillard, bit of a gap. Frank, Vamos, Igor. Looking forward to that one. Some nice fights coming up there, I think. Would have been nice to have 10 cars on the grid. But can't have anything you want, I guess. Someone asking on the Discord server how they can join. I'm a bit late for this round. But maybe the next one. So 4, 5, 6 lights. And away we go. Someone very slow off the line there in the back. I think that was Frank, and also Thomas immediately going for the attack. So let's watch from Andres' point of view as Linus and Thomas are directly set to set each other, but Thomas just about getting ahead there. So overview for T1 and 2. Linus commits way harder into T1, and Zillard going all the way over the grass, but manages to miss all of them. So luckily no big crash there. It's had some sort of issue braking. It's Linus, P1, then Thomas, then Andres, Noah, Vamos, Igor, Frank, and then very far behind after that incident, Zillard. Let's get a bit closer to the action at the front. You see in Thomas's rearview mirror how close Andres and Noah are, and Thomas himself again trying to attack, trying to regain that lead that it seemed as if he had already into T1, but then just a bit too careful into the first corner. And Zillard is out. I think he had some sort of issue. Clearly not being able to brake properly there, but he missed everyone. I'm very happy about that. So with whatever issue he was having, he managed to not ruin everyone's race. I respect that. Also, Noah fell almost all the way to the back. He fell all the way to the back. As soon as we think we're clear on this situation here between them, I think we won't be for a little bit, and we'll still look at what just happened to Noah there. Maybe it was visible in the rearview mirror, but I wasn't looking apparently at that point in time. So that reconnected on the server. So clearly he still wants to drive. I wonder what happened there. So glad he didn't take anyone out. Thomas, bad exit out of the last corner. If that exit would have been a bit better with the toe you get over the straight line here, that could have been an overtaking opportunity, but I don't think it's going to be one now. So let's see at what happened to Noah. I'm going to try to find it. There we are. So with Andres very close in front of him, he brakes here on the curb and then realizes that he would have hit Andres and points himself out of the corner to ensure nothing happens. And just as we get back, we're watching a battle between Thomas and Linus as Linus loses the car a little bit there. And that slide is enough for Thomas to get by because he was so close. So let's see if Linus can stay consistent. And if he'll be able to grab the position there as Thomas goes a bit wide in that left-hander, but out of the corner I think his momentum is fine. So no overtaking opportunity for Linus here right now. I think Noah is oh, Thomas almost loses the car there on the exit and Linus is back by. Me looking at the timing sheets for half a second. And then it looks as if Linus is sliding again. They're all having rear traction issues. I wonder if these guys worked on the setup a little bit. They drive together. I assume that whatever they did, they're both having it, and Linus opens up into the entry here. I think Linus has an issue. Linus losing 2 positions there. I don't think he meant to let Andres pass. He was very close on that entry, very slow on that entry. And again, we see a slide up there from Thomas, and that might already be the opportunity for Andres. So much happening here. Not even enough time to process what just happened to Linus. Maybe Linus misjudged the entry because he thought he had to do the other layout. There are 2 corners basically in that corner. One for the moto layout, the wider one we're driving here right now, and one for the base layout. So maybe he was looking at the wrong corner, then realized but was too slow too early then already. He drove a lot of ACC and this layout doesn't exist in ACC. So that could be it. Who knows? Maybe he'll tell us after the race. It's too exciting to practice. There are worse things. I'm kind of annoyed about that. I kind of messed up the start of the stream. Oh, Noah almost spinning as he tries to overtake Frank. I kind of messed up the start of the stream because I thought that we had an audio issue. So because I always see that when I start the stream, a lot of people seem to be shown, get shown the stream, but then because nothing happens yet, they go away again. If they would have tuned in here, I think they would stay. He was going for an overtake on Andres and he has him already. Yes, he's through. Andres is going to try to do the switchback here. He gets out of the corner very nicely, but just not enough distance to do into the next one. Let's look at the replay really quickly, how Linus did that. So in the replay now, clearly prepares this corner better on the exit. Also, Andres was on the grass there on the inside, and that was enough. And small mistake, and with the front of the field being so competitive, someone is going to be there to try to profit off it immediately. Thomas all the way on the outside, he has a penalty for that. He definitely has a penalty for that. He has to slow down so much, and I think he has a big penalty, so he has to do a set of seconds slowdown. He didn't do that. That costs so much time. Even Vamos goes past. Yeah, he misjudged that completely, but he also went way too wide, but I think the game just gave him a huge penalty. That is so unfortunate. With 23 minutes plus the end of that lap then to go, I think he'll still go places, but Linus and Andres are going to be gone. And also he'll have a hard time still overtaking Noah being that far behind now. Noah is pretty strong right now on this track. Yeah, that's so unfortunate. You could see it from Linus's point of view as he tries to make it safely past Ego. He does it. You could see it from Linus's point of view or Andres' point of view, whoever we were on at that point, that he went way too wide on the outside there, but arguably not right of the game to give him such a big penalty, but I think also he just executed it poorly, because it was apparently a penalty that you have to lift a certain amount of time for, and not the penalty where you get under a set speed, basically, to do the penalty. And that cost him there, because he slowed down to a stop and then realized he has to now stay stationary for 10 seconds, which is obviously not what you're supposed to be doing. You're just supposed to be off the throttle for 10 seconds or whatever, however long of a penalty he had. Very unfortunate. That's a mistake you only make once. He's not going to... Next time he's going to do that a lot better, if it happens to him again. So for the battle for the lead, that just leaves Linus and Andres, and we know that Linus should be a bit faster. So is this the opportunity for him to check out? Linus 56.2, best lap of the session. Andres 56.7, no slouch by any means, but not fast enough to stay with Linus most likely. Noah also dropping away from them pretty significantly, but his target is going to be to try to stay in front of Thomas at the end of the race. Thomas has some overtakes to do now. Vamos, we know he can go for defenses sometimes. He does want to keep the positions, even though he'll have some trouble trying to keep them for 20 minutes, and he does so here again, but it's his right. He wants to fight, and I don't blame him for that. Still, Thomas makes it past safely. There was a bit of a contact there. And I don't think Vamos can go for it again here. He might actually. You couldn't see Thomas there because he was behind Vamos' seat on that camera angle, but Vamos going too deep here, so Thomas is fine. But obviously more time lost for Thomas with that overtake. Thomas now around 9 seconds away from Noah. We'll see how fast he makes that back up. Gotta fight all the times, yes, that's definitely what Vamos is thinking. Especially because he's probably like, he's sure that he'll stay in front of Ego, or at least that's what he's thinking, and that's why he probably doesn't mind that much if he loses a second to a battle. And it's also practice, and frankly, the series Oh, Noah has a penalty. Noah has a penalty just before the start-finish line. That's why he has to take it here and right now and do it very slowly, and that lost him 3 positions again against Frank, Thomas and Vamos. One less important overtake to try to make for Thomas. So now it's just Frank for him, and he's going to be doing that easily, I would say. And then there's going to be a huge gap in front of him, and we'll see if he has any chance of making any other backup. So Noah, at least the second driver now to get a penalty in the last corner or between the last 2 corners, and that just messes with your race so badly if you drive way too far to the outside there. And Frank almost loses the car, but he's fine. He was on the grass with his outside wheels, I think, but manages to catch it, stay mostly on track. Just a matter of time though until Thomas gets past. I think Frank not interested in defending here, and Thomas just drives around the outside cleanly. Frank is the opposite of Vamos. Even though both are quite similar on pace, Vamos goes for every fight, and Frank is like, sometimes he should go for fights that he doesn't go for. So Thomas unleashed now. We'll see what kind of pace he'll be doing, but in the meantime, Noah has the task of getting past Vamos and Frank, and unless there's going to be another huge penalty ahead of him, that's probably going to be as far as he gets with that massive penalty he had here 2 laps ago. Vamos is below 2 minutes now. That's pretty decent for that part of the field. That should enable him to get Frank again, actually, if he can be somewhat consistent in those times. Noah hitting Vamos a little bit, but it cost him more than it did Vamos. It looked a little bit as if Noah was shocked there to actually hit Vamos. Let's look at it again in the replay. Fast forward through this a little bit. And then here you see they take slightly different lines. Vamos is still too far on the inside, and Noah comes far from the outside, so he can take more speed. And he hits them a little bit and then goes completely off the throttle. Clearly scared to be hitting him again. Noah should just try to go for 2 safe overtaking maneuvers here. He has the pace. He doesn't have to worry about that, and there's not that much to gain anymore in front of that, with Thomas being the only one reasonably close, and I think Thomas is too fast. This should be it. Vamos slightly pushing him to the inside just to see how far he can go. And Noah decides to make it again at a different opportunity, and maybe it's the next corner already, but he just can't find a way past there, and this is also likely not the corner to try to make an overtake out of. Maybe out of this one, but he doesn't. I think there are better overtaking opportunities and better ways to try to prepare Vamos, for example by prioritizing the exit here while already being very close. Is that another penalty for Noah? I think it's another penalty. I didn't even see where he got it. Let's look at it together, maybe we can spot it. So here, clearly not out, but then I assume on the exit here. Oh no, it's on the entry here. Oh no, it's on the exit here. Yeah, it's on the exit here. He is fully off the curb there. That is not allowed, and we've seen how much that penalty costs you. He did it a lot better though this time. If you compare that to the penalty that Thomas had earlier, Noah probably lost like, I mean, we know pretty exactly because Vamos was there right in front of him, so Noah lost 4 seconds. I think Thomas earlier lost like 15. Just because he didn't take it perfectly, basically. So again, Noah is further behind than he should be. Does he still have enough time to make it work against both Vamos and Frank? The room for error is disappearing now at this point if he still wants to get to 4th. And they're all doing 56s in the front. Big hit on the curb there, and they are very slippy here. That looked very clean. And with both of them doing 59s. Okay, Frank also on the 59, but a 59.8. So there's potential here for a three-way fight if Vamos makes up the last 2.6 seconds up to Frank. It's actually somewhat likely that they will meet. They will meet there with Frank being a bit faster, a bit slower than Vamos, and then I think Noah is still going to get some time here if he puts it together. He should be going into the 58s. He did like a 57.5 in quali, I think, in worse conditions. With less fuel, but race times should be like kinda similar, depending on the stage of the race. Marginally slower at the start of the race. Or slower at the start of the race and faster later, I think. If you know Barcelona, especially this layout with without the chicanes, this is a high tire deck track, especially for the left side. So because you have so many fast right-handers, the left tires are loaded really heavily all the time. But with these cars, and because even the mediums are still relatively hard tires, they have no problems living through a half-an-hour race, and they get new tires between all the sessions. So even though this should be a high-deck track, the tire deck actually makes basically no difference in the series, which also makes it a bit easier for the drivers, a bit easier for the newbies, just puts less variables into the field, basically. So a completely open field where everyone can join can be a bit closer to each other. That was a good lap from Noah. I said that earlier that he should be into the 58s, but he is in the low 57s. That is almost race leading pace. Yeah, sometimes he does extremely good laps. Extremely good laps. Only sometimes, unfortunately. Frank and Vamos going exactly the same pace. Linus able to drop Andres slightly with a 10th here and there, but overall not really driving away, so any bigger mistake from Linus, like a penalty, could still turn this into a fight for P1. So Noah almost goes past, and I think here, oh, there was not enough space there. Vamos is also going to try to take the apex, and even if he misses them slightly, there is no car width there for Noah to go to. Again, it feels as if he just has to go for better opportunities, has to prepare the overtake a bit better. Linus with a 56.1, a very strong lap. Andres behind him, also on a personal best lap, but still 1.5 tenths slower. We know Vamos isn't the easiest driver to overtake. He has a pretty wide car, it seems like, for his pace, basically. But maybe this is the practice Noah needs. Now don't get a penalty here again. And were they both off? I think Vamos was. Not entirely sure. Maybe. They seem to be fine. Unless they disappear now, because they get disqualified. No, they're fine. Maybe the time we watched before, Noah actually got the penalty on the inside. Noah goes for a move here, but Vamos again defending very hard. Vamos could be going too hot into T1 here though, and he is, and Noah's going to get cleanly past. So pushing Vamos into a mistake also works, but you have to do it. You have to do it solidly, and that's what Noah did there. Preparing a move that would actually be a decent move to push Vamos into having to pull out the ace out his sleeve, and if he doesn't have one, then this happens. So that was better done than his previous attempts, I would say. And Vamos already kind of disappearing in Noah's front and Noah's rear mirror, but Noah, as I say that, going wide there. So all it needs is 1 or 2 clean laps and he'll be at the back of Frank, then another clean maneuver, no more penalties, and then Noah will be safely into P4. Zooming close to Frank there. Frank person best 59.2, but Noah, even though he did an overtake on this lap, don't forget that, 57.0. And I think Vamos just disappeared. Did Vamos crash? I don't think this is a connection thing. I think he's actually gone. Let's try to look at that. Oh yeah, he's slow here. He has an issue. Looks as if he has no more throttle. Is he out of fuel? We won't know for sure. But in the meantime, Noah trying to get the position against Frank. So got 7 minutes left. Should be doable. Noah's going to beat himself up over the penalty situation because he would be easily in front of Thomas if he hadn't done that, who himself had a penalty issue. And this is going to be it as Frank stays on the outside and doesn't go for a proper defense. But Noah goes very hot into this corner and he goes all the way on the grass as Frank is just going to be in front again. Again, not an optimal move from Noah and he has to try again. Szilard has a broken car, but this is proof that it's worth to, even if you had an issue, even if you disconnect, just continue driving, because I assume that he will have done more laps at the end of the race than Vamos, who disconnected. So that would still put Szilard in front of Vamos. But as the rest of the field spreads out, we'll still have to look at this battle, because again, also for the overtake on Frank, the room for error is disappearing for Noah. He messes up once more, if he gets a penalty once more, will he still have enough time to make the overtake that he should easily be making based on pace? I got like all of the penalties here. A couple drivers are having that issue. Thomas fell behind like 15 seconds or so, or even more, because of the overtakes he then had to do. Because he had a penalty in the last corner, and Noah also had that twice already. So just staying on track is really helping here. That's why Frank is still in P4. Again, Noah here in a suboptimal spot to try to make an overtake. He's kind of showing himself and then ruining his exit. He has to make sure that he's actually close enough out of the last corner so he gets the easy one done into T1. That was a bit of a mistake from Frank, but Noah also basically doing the same mistake. So no opportunity to capitalize there. Frank opens up that corner and just... he probably wasn't thinking that Noah would send it in there. Because Frank was clearly trying to open up the next corner maybe a bit too much, considering how they're connected, how close they are to each other. And Noah going off the track here. Is that a penalty? I don't think it's one. Yeah, I think that goes on the gravel. Is Frank... Nah, Frank is too far away. I think that exit usually isn't what produces the penalty. It's the inside of the corner before that, right? Of the first of the two very far right-handers at the end, very fast right-handers at the end. That's where you instantly get a huge penalty. And Frank hits Noah significantly. Noah was very slow there on the entry, but Frank spins as a result of that. Costs him a lot more than Noah. Let's go in the replay. Try to figure out what happened. Is Frank going too fast into this? Where does he brake? Yeah, he is pretty fast, but Noah is also too slow. Very weird situation. Both of them making a bit of a mistake, and then they meet in the middle. Luckily won't cost Frank a position. Igor is currently getting to know his new setup as far as I know. He actually bought a DD wheel after having been on an old Logitech one for pretty long. And as you get used to your new setup, you have to get the time back. Sometimes that's just how it is, and I'm sure he'll make some progress. So Linus was out of the picture basically throughout the whole race because he and Andres were the only ones to get through everything cleanly without any big penalties. And Linus very consistently fast. It's nice to see the opposites. Robert isn't in this lobby, but I think Robert has a very smooth driving style and Linus does a lot of corrections. That was very interesting to see on Brands, where there were a lot of laps where they were basically at the same pace, and if you switch between the onboards, they were driving so differently. And Vamos, I somehow got disconnected. I didn't press anything though. That's unfortunate. It looked on the... we went into the replay to see what happened to you. It looked as if you just like couldn't go on the throttle anymore. I have no idea what happened there. I assume some sort of connection issue. You should always be able to get back on the server and just continue to drive. Obviously you'll be losing like 1 or 2 laps or however long you were gone, but Zillard had the same issue. So that could have still saved your position basically, but unfortunate that that happened. And yeah, as I said, you're not the only one who had issues with penalties. The last corner. Solid 5.8 second lead for Linus, and then behind them with all of those issues that the other drivers were having. Huge gaps. Again, 56.2 very consistently fast. Andres with a bit of a slower lap, but also no more to gain there. Andres also having had a very, very good race. Linus too deep into the first corner, but it doesn't matter that much anymore. He can afford that. Is he going to go for decent drifts? Robert tried this on Brands, and I wasn't impressed. There were like 2 or 3 good ones in there, but overall I think still some work needed to improve the drift skills. When you're in first with a big gap, clearly you have to. I think we were missing Robert from this one. He wasn't signed up. Luca was actually signed up. Kind of forgot about that. I was hoping that he would be on pace with Linus. Oh, he almost lost the car there, didn't he? That would have still lost the position against Andres. Big drift. No, he goes on the... Is that actually going to cost him? No, there's no way, right? There's no way. He's going to be on the track. The finish line comes up sooner than later. And that's it, yeah, okay. Okay, we're good. I just about thought that Linus threw it away there, trying to be cool in the last corner. But Linus P1, very good race. I'm going to pretend as if I didn't see that. Andres P2, very well done. And then we're going to be waiting a while for everyone else. Thomas P3, except that one issue that he had, he could have... he was driving for P1, wasn't he? Unfortunate, but he can still be happy with P3, I think. And then Noah, a bit slower than the front runners, but his peak pace was very good, just too many mistakes. So pretty far off, but also I think fourth is fine. Frank decides to go into the gravel as well in the last corner, but he has such a big gap that it doesn't matter. So it's Frank on P5, if I'm not mistaken, then Igor on P6, and then it should be Zillard, and then Vamos. Yes, interesting race. It was very, very hectic at the beginning, and then as people decided to try to cut the second to last corner, it fell away from some of them. So we're going to go into the intermission screen, stay tuned, and we're gonna be back in like 8 minutes with the second race. And there's Igor over the line. There we are, still missing Thomas. And technically also Luca, but I assume that Luca isn't showing up. So smaller field with that should be easy elo farming for Thomas, considering how fast he was. Charlotte isn't going to be slow either, but I think she'll be slotting him behind him, and then and we'll see what Szilard can do. Thomas might also be going for the last first challenge. He could afford that in this field. If Charlotte has a very good race, then she could try to fight for P1 if Thomas starts in the back and doesn't have a perfect first lap. Frank sending it over the inside there and is already in the gravel. Amazing outlap. He likes to do that on his outlaps. Ego also having some sort of issue there. Let's go with Szilard, who is the first one on track. And with some practice from the first race, we'll see what he can do. Cuts very heavily across the last turn, so he's on the throttle a little bit late for the beginning of his lap. The laps out of the pit box here valid sometimes, but the times are so bad that you can effectively ignore them. Let's say a little bit in the middle of T2 and T3 to make sure that he comes all the way from the outside here. We'll see if that pays off at the end. Not quite finding his way to the apex. Very smooth, very careful. Maybe a bit too careful, but also we know how low the grip is, and here with that much entry speed he misses that corner again. Hank actually ahead of him on the track, but very slow. I think he made a major mistake in his first sector. Igor probably still on the valid lap, although significantly slower than Szilard. Takes a lot of speed through here, that looked good. Ideally without cutting there, as we know a lot of drivers have been doing the first race. And then gets out of here cleanly. Still some improvement possible here and there, but a 58.9 to start off isn't bad. Charlotte has already crossed the first sector line, but I don't actually see a sector time from her. Ego 2:02. Let's go on board with Charlotte. So I'm not sure if this is a valid lap or if we're seeing some sort of mistake from the timing tables. She is pretty far away. Maybe she went into the gravel somewhere in the first sector. Also very far out here. So that right now in the first sector significantly slower than his previous lap. Really sends it into there. Then very late on the throttle, maybe try to take a bit too much speed into the corner. But this lap obviously not being his best anyway. As he had a much better first sector in the lap prior. But this should be the first fast lap from Frank. Sticks on the inside there, tries to go back on the throttle. Now how much speed can he take through here? Looks decent, maybe a bit careful. He goes very wide here and then unfortunately misses the entry to this corner. If that would have been valid, that line could be it maybe. And now Charlotte is showing how it's done 35.1 per sector. So now I think we're going to see significantly better times if she gets it together. And fingers crossed Thomas is still going to connect. But as I said, I think he's going to be going for a last first challenge. Otherwise, this would be a bit too easy for Charlotte. Drifts there in the last corner a little bit, but with the first and second sector purple, and I think purple by some margin, the 57.5, so 1.4 seconds ahead of what Szilard has been doing his best attempt. And I would be surprised if either Igor or Frank are going to be faster than Szilard, so I think Charlotte is significantly ahead of anyone else in the field here. With the field, unfortunately, that much smaller than in the first race. I think we won't have quite the first lap action that we had the first time around. But that's how it is if you'd like to extend the field a little bit. Join us, we still have 2 rounds to go after this one and then the finals. The finals are going to be a bit fuller because you can actually make some money there. We have 1,000 euros of cash prize pool. And essentially all the drivers that have been participating here and have gotten a valid rating are going to be able to participate in that one. So it's worth it. See who's on a potential improvement for a lap. Frank, first and second. First and best sector, but also, oh no, that was his previous lap. I think he aborted the lap again, so he's having issues again. I think outlap from Szilard as well, but let's say with him for a lap. My holy setup. Did you find anything in the setup, Linus? You were sliding a lot. I saw that. I was talking about that. I was wondering whether you and Thomas tried to make some changes to the setup that it didn't quite work out. But I guess that's confirmation. But you were still a bit faster than Andres, and everyone else had issues with penalties because everyone kept going off in the last fast right-handers. You get a lap, it's Giga, but you only get 2 times per race, I see. That kind of setup. A bit hesitant there on the turn in, was too slow too early and couldn't find a good line anymore. But the rest of it before that looked pretty decent, so we'll see how much time he lost there and if he can make it anywhere close to Zillard. If he can make it anywhere close to Charlotte, of course, he's Zillard. That's an improvement, but I think he lost most of that, most of the improvement possible in that left-handed, the first one of the last sector. Penalties in last corner are crazy. You must live 20 seconds and won't go away if you stop. Yes, we saw that multiple people have had that, as I said. I think Noah had it twice. But yeah, all the bigger penalties you can't take by going like under the minimum speed, you just have to lift. Questionable if it's deserved that it's that bad at that point. I think it's good that the game gives you a penalty immediately if you go over the inside there, second to last corner, but yes. Obviously sucks if it hits you. Definitely a bit too much that the game gives you there. But do I really want real penalty to like honk at you once for gaining half a second there? I don't know. I think real penalty is pretty bad, to be honest. Better in some ways, but not good. Lots of steering angle there into the fast right-hander. .57.5, I think, for the conditions were pretty good from Charlotte, and now it feels as if she can't quite get back to that anymore, but also I assume she doesn't have to. Same rules for everyone, yeah, true. It would still be nice if there was like an actual good penalty system for this game. And a good one that doesn't include me watching everyone cut, because I like it when you're just allowed to go over the lines in places where the track doesn't like organically punish you for it, and then just leave it be. Like on the Nürburgring at the end of the AMG arena, you can just cut wide and just do it. If you cut too wide, you end up going on the grass there as you try to go back on track. That's too wide then, but I'm not gonna sit down there and watch if you went over the white lines. We did that once on Red Bull Ring and never again. That was a long evening. What is Charlotte doing? Not finding her the time again. The curb here on the inside, and the car really doesn't like that. You're just on the throttle too late. Here as well, lots of steering angle going on, full throttle onto the curb, and immediately it slides out from under you. I saw 55.8 in the race. Yes, that seems possible. I did. I was like showing Noah and Frank around the lap earlier, and I just hopped into the rig and did one lap, and that was a 55.8. But that was obviously in like with quali fuel, like with 3 laps of fuel left and new tires, but also the tires barely degrade on this car. Full rake and full wheel rate in the back, yes. I think also everything else is basically on full oversteer mode to make this car turn in, but full wheel rate in the back is a lot. Do you at least have some wheel rate in the front to balance it out, or are you not gonna share that? Charlotte going wherever. But she safely has pole. I think Sillard's lap was already very good. Not only by his standards, but also generally speaking, a good lap. Of course, all skill or not. Well, you were fast, but I don't know. I think if Robert would have been there, and maybe also if Luca had participated, it's a bit hard for me to know how good Luca is. Going to the wall. Because I know Luca is very fast, but the races he's been here, he clearly didn't prepare before the race. It was pretty obvious that he kept getting better throughout the event. But Luca's donating some ELO this time because he was in the entry list significantly after 18 o'clock, so he was in. And that's did not start for him. So you're all getting some rating from him. And send it into the pits. So I think that's it. Nobody driving anymore. And I think that's the order that we were expecting with Charlotte and P1, then Sillard, then Frank, then Igor. Thomas unfortunately not here anymore. But we'll see what happens if any of these guys ends up with a penalty again at the end, and they'll have to try to make up 1 or 2 places again. I don't want to call for reverse grid start or anything like that, because I know these drivers want to take the opportunity to get some rating. Everything max on the rear, everything on the front. Yeah, it's I don't know. I just didn't find a lot of opportunities with the setup. Obviously, with this car, you can't change that much, but with the dampers being changeable, you would expect there to be something to gain red, but I don't know. To me, it didn't make a big of a difference. We had 2 iterations of a setup that were almost the same, except significantly different bump and rebound rates. And it just felt like it didn't do anything. It also didn't help with the hopping into the braking zones. You have to make the car significantly harder for that overall, and I felt like it just wasn't worth it around the lap. I think we had that conversation when you were in the Discord once, like 2 weeks ago. But I think for this series it's quite good that it's like it tends to be an understeery car and you really have to make a turn in, because then people don't kill themselves all the time. And if we don't have pre-qualifying anything like that, we let people of very different paces drive against each other. It's good. 4, 5, 6 lights. So we're going for it once more with a small field, and I am expecting Charlotte to keep the lead here into the first corner, or at least she should really try to do so, because this is Sillard's best opportunity. On pace, he's going to have trouble to keep up with Charlotte. And I think they're going into T1 in the same order, Charlotte, then Sillard, then Franco was kind of looking into there, but just a bit too far away, with Sillard also closing the door on him. And then Igor. Some interesting sound there from Igor's engine. I think it was over revving a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it sounded like at least. And Charlotte comfortably ahead, 0.8 of a second, so no more significant tow for Zillard. I wonder how far the sim model is off reality, because I also wouldn't expect you to have to do so much in the setup to make it turn in. I know it's kind of a classic thing for the BMWs. Frank is completely out of the track there. So that's Igor passed. I think Frank has an issue. He's not really... he has a penalty. I'm sure he has a penalty again. He shouldn't have gone onto the gravel either way. But yeah, I know that it's like pretty common that you need some rake to make some of the BMW cars turn in properly, but you shouldn't have to do funny toe settings or stuff like that. That's true. But especially the rear negative toe is just a sim thing that doesn't really exist in real life. At least not as far as I know. So, is this just gonna be a chill evening for Charlotte to drive away in the front? 1.4 seconds of a gap now. Hang 6.6, 6.5 behind Igor. I think Igor had the penalty issue in the last corner at least once or twice last race. So, we'll see if Frank can come back for that. Supposed to be in the 3 digits in the finale regarding prize money. Yeah, I think you can do that. Don't feel like I'm getting used to the car that much. I see, that's interesting. I don't know, maybe you're also like trying to change too much of the setup. I know for me, what I personally find weird about this car is how little braking results in optimal rotation. If you brake a bit too much, you immediately lose all the rotation again. And that can lead you to try to find too much rotation in the setup, and it ends up not actually being worth it. Because since we're already going for all the grip possible in the front, you have to compromise your exits to try to gain rotation, right? If you make the rear harder, that is going to make you turn in a bit better, but the main disadvantage is the exit traction. So maybe it's a driving style thing, and you obviously have less experience in this car than almost all of the people you've been driving against, even the like slower drivers, since you joined very late. For me, I feel like I can just get in the car and be fast, and it's so easy. But we've driven this car a lot. Stroke the brake and it will be fine is weird to me. Yeah, I can understand that. You just have to wrap your head around that to be able to drive this car. As I said, like a little brake yields like a surprising amount of rotation, and then you brake a bit more than that, you get to the point of where it feels as if the car is just not able to handle the longitudinal load anymore. And then you understeer again. I said this in the first race, when I watched you and Robert like side by side on Brand's Hedge. It was pretty obvious that it felt like you were on average a bit better on track usage, to the point where I would assume that you would be faster. But his way of driving the car is probably superior, and it kind of cancels that out again. Because Robert is extremely smooth, and that really works with this car. Will there be a season 2? To be honest, I can't tell you that right now. It's no secret that we were hoping for a couple more drivers, and we're hoping for like enough attention that we could turn up to a season 2 with like 1 or 2 marketing deals. So we're not paying the prize money out of pocket anymore. That hasn't really been possible yet. I am not saying never, but it's unlikely right now that there will be a season 2, especially because I am pretty deep into like potentially starting a company right now. I have a shit ton of stuff on my hands, and I am not sure how much I can do at the side of that, basically. So yeah, no clear yes, no clear no. I would like to do season 2, but it depends a lot on how much there's going on, basically. But I think turnout will be fine for the finals itself. We've got a couple drivers right now who I know just like haven't been able... Charlotte going to the gravel, but I think she has the time to do that. Where they just like haven't been able to make it anymore these past few weeks, but they still want to participate in the finals. So at least a good shot of being like 2 digits there regarding people participating in it, and then I will make a post in the Discord about it this week, regarding like filling up the rest of the field with people who don't actually have a rating. It's probably going to look somewhere along the lines of, if you have a rating, like if you did the thing you were supposed to do, drive 5 races, then you get a guaranteed spot, no matter how good you are. And if we have places left then from people who haven't done the full amount of races or haven't participated, then we might still fill them up. But I want to make it dependent on what you guys want, basically. It's not that I'm not comfortable with slow cars, but this car is just weird. Yes, I understand that. And if we have an actual community that is voting on a car, then we'll be going with whatever car they'd be voting for. Like, I'd be totally fine with that. The main decision was like between the MX-5 and the BMW, and we ended up going with this car because it's even more forgiving in like wheel-to-wheel battles, but the MX-5 is fine regarding that. So it's not like the MX-5 would have been like a bad idea. And I know that like that car drives a bit more like you would expect it to drive, while this car just seems too understeer unless you do a lot of weird setup stuff to it. But yeah, the priority would still... MX-5 would be a dream, yeah. I kind of expected you to say that. Basically, main thing is just like get a car that's easy to drive, and it's easy to drive wheel to wheel. And if you hit each other a little bit, you don't like immediately delete each other off track, which generally speaking is fine in this game, but it's obviously a bit better or worse depending on the car. But struggling to find the line here. Not able to go back on the throttle when you would like to. And Szilard still in her rear mirror after that mistake earlier. He's able to stay somewhere in reach. Just close enough so if there is any bigger mistake from Charlotte, he's going to be able to capitalize off it. So maybe Szilard still is in talks for the race win here. Frank and Igor as expected, just a bit too far away. We'll see what pace Igor can go throughout the race, if he'll be able to stick it close to Frank. But last lap, Charlotte 2/10 faster than Szilard. I didn't just see that from Charlotte, to be honest. Too busy talking, but the almost choke was pretty funny, to be honest, from your last race. I actually thought you lost it. We were talking about the week previous to that, when Robert was significantly at the front. He was like starting to try to drift through every corner in the last lap, and I was expecting that from you as well. Yeah. Ended up a bit more hectic than anticipated. Is that able to catch up a little bit? By 0.5 seconds is going to get a little bit of a toe. 0.6. It's on the edge. It was very good in these cars, even though this is not the best track for it. Was my try to drift penultimate corner was hella smooth? Yeah, I think so as well. But to be honest, a good pro for these cars is the third race, the Red Bull Ring. If you haven't done yet, you should watch the highlights of that. Kaya, Finn and Luca really went for it there. Maybe that would have worked in MX-5s as well, but they hit each other pretty often, to be honest, and it was just fine. They had banged up cars, but they were doing toe battles throughout the whole race. It was pretty funny. Out of curb here for Szilard. He's lost significant amount of time again, just in this lap. In the first half of this lap, rather. And is he gonna touch the gravel? Yeah, a little bit. So bad exit out of here again. TT Cup would be fun. That's one of the cars that I was thinking about as well. But it's all-wheel drive, right? I'm always not sure about that. I feel like this car was already too out there. I should have just gone for MX-5 because everyone knows that car. Even though it likely would have been a bit more chaotic. But that can be a good thing, I guess. It's front-wheel drive even, okay. Yeah, I don't know, the on-throttle understeer just killed me. We drove them like once or twice in a private session, and it was pretty funny, I have to admit. That car is negative wing. I mean, front-wheel drive cars usually don't have an issue turning in any other situation except being on throttle. So do you really want to do a setup adjustment that makes it oversteer in every single situation? Probably not. You just kind of have to deal with it. I think this like perpetual understeer on throttle issue that you just can't really get rid of unless you are willing to ruin the rest of the car setup. It's just, I just don't like that. I think if you really understand how to drive the BMW, then it actually makes more sense. I mean, not more sense. It makes sense that a front-wheel drive car is understeer on throttle, but you know what I mean. I think it feels better. Still as fast in the corners, but straight at speed 6 kph increase, that shouldn't happen. Doesn't mean that it doesn't, but not sure what to think about that one. Well, I think Charlotte's performance has stabilized, so we won't have to worry anymore about her throwing away the lead. Of course, I wouldn't mind a battle. So maybe if Zilla just gets a move on here, like really nails everything. I've jinxed it a surprising amount of times already. It feels as if every time I talk positively about someone, they go into the gravel in a matter of like 3 seconds. That has happened a couple times already. Did you do a NOS lap already? No, I didn't. Yes, absolutely, commentator's curse. It's real. Silat is definitely also struggling with turn and understeer. I think he's missing out on the right amount of trail brake input to make the car come around. Dude, I want to have a benchmark. I'll see. I won't be able to do it this weekend. I won't be able to do it before this weekend either, because I don't really have time. And then I am on a business trip next week, so I don't really know what to do, to be honest. I'll have to come up with some funny setup where I send Charlotte all the server files and she starts the server for you, because I can't make it next time. Do it now, problem solved. Nah. I'm going to be doing. I think Silat got a penalty there that looked suspiciously like he was taking one. So I gotta do the results for this race and then do probably a highlight video of the first race. There were some funny situations there, so I want to do that. Not of the second one so much, with too few entries. And yeah, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it. But before the actual event, sure. Like a week or so before that, I'll be able to. Probably earlier than that. We still have it. Yeah, we still have 2 more rounds. So the next round that I'm not there, and then the last one, and then like 1.5 weeks break for the Nordschleife one. Yeah, I'll do laps in time. Was Silat too far off there? I think he got the huge ass penalty, didn't he? Oh no, he got a smaller penalty. He got it still really hurts, especially if you decide to go for the sub 35 kph slowdown in a fast corner. But at least that wasn't the one where you have to live for 20 seconds. I think that's the one you get on the inside there. So that frees up Charlotte, unfortunately for our viewing pleasure. So no matter how hard I try to curse it this time, I think this is going to be our finishing order. Wanna guess what times are realistic on NAS? I have no idea. What layout are we even driving? Did I put that into the channel? I picked one, but I don't remember which one it was. We're driving like the really short one, right? I know, if it's not in the channel, then I have to post it there, because I remember that I decided on one. Like, there are a bunch of different layouts. The layout, which of the NOS layouts we drive, because I think there's one where you do the Kurzanbindung. Like the NLS one. I just thought the 24 hours, well, looks like I'll have to put that into the channel then if we're not sure. Because then apparently I didn't do that. There's still more than enough time to practice for that. Make it random, yeah. I'll just pick a completely different track and tell you like 10 minutes in advance. Yeah, I have to clarify that though. I forgot about that then, apparently. Charlotte is deciding on some interesting lines, but she's got all the time in the world. Too easy of a competition for her in this field. Seven-minute climb time trials. That would be pretty funny as well, yeah. I don't know, you can just do so many funny things in Assetto Corsa, but it has proven very difficult to get people off the established sims. Because if I approach a racing team about like, hey, I have like a competition, it's a pretty cool one, we even have a somewhat decent rule book so you understand what is allowed and what isn't allowed, instead of me just pulling everything out my ass whenever there's an incident. They're just like, we drive iRacing. And that's like all the whole answer I get of them. If they're just like trying to find an excuse because they don't want to participate, it's all okay. I completely get that, but I think people are like locked into other sims and they don't want to split their attention between multiple ones, and that obviously makes it a bit more difficult for us. 8-minute time window to simulate times, yeah. Does not even host a server, just let everyone drive in their single player server. Maybe then we would see some of the faces that I know from the RSR live timing. God have mercy on it, it died a couple months ago. But there were some people, like especially one person on there that the community, or large parts of the community, still thinks is cheating, because what he's been doing in this game is just absolutely insane, and he posts videos of every single one of his hot laps and they look clean and like they make sense, but it's just like nobody can do those times. And he doesn't drive multiplayer apparently, so as soon as I would make a competition that's like single player based where you can make money, I think he would immediately show up. Charlotte coming across the finish line in time to do another lap. Let's make sure we don't completely forget about the race here. It's hard to adapt if you're coming from a different sim that's just a matter of who puts in more time, not more skill. I know what you mean, yes. If it was like a super competitive field, then you would have a point. Although I have to admit, Assetto Corsa for me is one of the sims, or at least I've also heard that from people who drove iRacing, and I say that as someone who's driven ACC, although admittedly I've preferred AC the whole time. That it's relatively easy for them to adapt to AC, while a lot of the other sims are like are weirder. You have to do more specific things to make the driving work in other sims. But I completely get what you mean. But especially when you're like approaching drivers who, I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not at the point where you have to grind for a single track car combo for tens of hours to get 1 or 2 tenths better so they can then win the championship. That's not the level they're on. There's still like it's just the iRacing lock-in effect. Let's be honest, it's iRacing. But that's how it is. It's been pretty fun so far in the series anyway. We've had some pretty cool races. Even though we also have one where we only have 4 participants. It's just how it is. This car is goofy, yeah. You have a point. That's some learning for me to do. So, I know it's his final lap at the top, but that's a lie. Charlotte is across the line, she's first, and she's first by a significant margin, just how we expected. Assetto ended up slowing down there a little bit towards the end of the race. And is safely in P2 ahead of Frank, who is going to come home in third. I can say that before the finish line, because there's no way he loses 60 seconds here in the last corner. Right? Yes, he doesn't. So he's in P3. GG's. First race was pretty cool. I don't think I've talked that fast for like multiple laps yet in the series, so that was nice to have. A lot of interesting fights happening at the same time. Multiple times we had to go back to the replay, so that's neat. And that's it for today. As I said already, I don't actually have... I won't be able to make the next one, so there's still going to be a race. You'll have to sign up a bit early for that one, but I'll tell you guys about it on the Discord channel probably still tonight. Because I have to prepare the entry list before I go on the business trip, basically, and then Charlotte is going to be hosting it for me. Well done, Mr. Eminem commentator. I am not sure if you can say that about me. I think my English commentating is quite bad, but I'm doing my best. So, yes, you'll get some more info on the Discord server regarding next race, and then the race after that is still gonna be a normal one with a stream, but no stream next race. So, see you then, goodbye.